All right, I'll try again. I hope everyone had a fantastic coffee break and is full of energy for the next and final leg of today's event. We've got a fantastic panel for you today with the topic Female Leaders from Biased AI to Female Funding Gap. Enjoy.
The ones. Yeah, a warm welcome also from my side. I am the moderator for today for this perfect panel. And before we are starting the discussion, I wanted to shortly introduce the fantastic female leaders sitting next to my side here, and also maybe introduce myself at the beginning. So if I'm not sitting here as a stage like this, I'm working for the IKB, especially the IKB Finanzierungsmarktplatz. And we are building a digital lending process using platform technology and for the corporate client business. So a little bit above what we heard a lot this morning, so if not in the SME sector. So today in my role as ambassador for the FinTech Ladies, I can moderate this panel, and our task at the FinTech Ladies is to connect females in the financial sector, so insurance, bank and the tech and legal firms. I want to invite all ladies who are interested to join this network. So it's really great to connect. So then let's start with Sara. She's sitting on my left side. She's senior manager on the corporate clients and fintech division at Varengold Bank, originating and structuring lending solutions for European fintechs. And she was convinced in multiple debt transactions closed in the recent years. And at earlier positions, she also had roles spanned in risk, compliance, and in the corporate banking in Europe and Middle East. And not Fatima, but Miriam is really a fintech lady by heart, I think. So she's co-founded the fintechs, or two fintechs. At first, it was RayPay in 2009, so thank you. And now it's Banxware. She founded in 2020, where still she is the co-CEO and the managing director. And next to her role as board member at different companies, she also advises startup initiatives voluntarily. And she advocates for inclusive, data-driven and access to finance where technology simplifies and accelerates processes. So, and then last but not least, there's Fatima, and she is head of legal at LIQID. And previously, she worked in senior legal roles at leading tech and financial institutions like Trade Republic, and also for leading legal firms like Linklaters. And next to this, she writes and speaks of female empowerment and diversity, and there is wants to give women a voice. And so I think this is a great mixture of great females. And now we wanted to start this discussion to bridge the gap between the lending topics we had this morning to these female topics. And maybe starting with Miriam, maybe you want to describe your view on how the digital lending situation maybe changes and your perspectives as a founder. And this perspective is two topics. Oh, yes.
It's two topics. Yeah, how does it change? I mean, in the past, actually, when you think about lending was more or less a manual process. So, and in the last years, there was a lot of data, there was a lot of AI. And when you combine this, you can make the manual process an automatic process and a smarter process. And I think on how you take risk decisions, I mean, if you go to a bank and you ask for a loan, I don't know, they ask you, okay, I need your statements from the banks. I need all this information. You still need a lot of paper in the normal bank way. And this is then transferred into the scanned, and then people are still using Excel sheets. This is still reality. So, and what we do and what other, let's say, alternative lenders in digital space do, I think that they just bring this old way of how to do lending into the new digital age. that has changed a lot. And so being a founder, okay, I mean, always you have to always look what's going on and what's going to happen next in the next 10 years. And you can't predict 10 years. I mean, 2.5 years, we didn't know any LLM. So, I mean, I think this is also something you have to act very fast. You have to really also think when you see something that's not working right anymore, you have to stop it and change it. And that's also what I think as a founder, the main thing is that you build software and you realize when something is not well anymore, you change it. And that is probably also the good thing about being in a startup, because you can be fast. And this is also something that I see with more traditional players, that it takes them long to transfer. Yeah? When there is changes, and especially now in times when changes happen so fast, it's really difficult for a lot of players to adapt to that. And I think this is something that is probably the most important thing, to adapt very fast to new things that come along the way. So, yeah, that's it.
And when you now have a look at the female perspective of it, do you think that your kind of models you are taking to make the underwriting that it is biased, or how do you go there?
I think it's not so biased. I think the way how we do underwriting is much more democratic, and it doesn't really care. I mean, our machines, they don't care about the name and about the gender. They just care about numbers on the bank account, what's happening there. They just care about, let's say, information we get about a company, and we don't care about the name. I think that's a big difference. And I think this is something that is often biased when, especially maybe put yourself in the shoes in the traditional German small town. You go into a small bank and you have maybe a name that doesn't sound so German. That's also, I think sometimes this is still, even if people don't want it, but I think there is a lot of prejudice going on, that you relate names and also maybe genders to maybe not being so successful with something. And this is what we don't do. So we just measure pure numbers. And so I think when we look at our, let's say, loan holders, we don't see that this is biased at all. It's totally mixed.
Okay, so you say that you make your decisions based on facts and data, but the question we had also in the discussion beforehand, are these facts and data not biased nonetheless? So I don't know if who of you wants to maybe say something to Fatima.
Maybe just starting with that. So I don't think that there's anything that is unbiased, right? Because if we, for example, now ask ChatGPT about women and men being credit card holders, men are the much better credit card holders. Why? Because they have been able to have credit cards for a much longer time. Like in 1962, I in Germany would have had to ask my husband or my father to sign my bank account opening document, right? It's not 100 years ago as we imagine ourselves in Germany to be at the pinnacle of female empowerment. And also in 1922, there was the first female lawyer in Germany, which is also only 100 years ago. So, and these are all data that goes into whatever the AI, whatever it might, be built from, base is its decisions on. It doesn't go into space. It goes into the internet. It goes into the data set that it has been given, mostly by white men, if we think about who actually codes AI, and then reproduces these kind of biases. So I think that it's very difficult to say these are unbiased facts, because we have to think about how these facts were produced, who introduced these facts to the AI, where there are very specific testing and also challenge processes that say, okay, what is this kind of data? Who provided this data? Where is this data from? And do we also take into account why this data looks like this? Saying, for example, that women are not as good as a bank account holder, but maybe just because they weren't able to be a bank account holder 100 years ago, right? So these are all things that we have to take into account when we speak about unbiased facts, because I don't think that they are really unbiased in most cases.
Yeah, I have to say it differently because we don't take any data out of LLM, so we don't ask ChatGPT about a person. So I mean, what we do is, and I think this is really where it comes to being a founder, or if you are really in charge of a system that does underwriting, you have to be careful that you also use data that is not, let's say, manipulated or so. So for example, how I can explain a bit how we use our data. So we built a kind of, let's say, internal LLM. So a smart database that combines all the data of our company and its own data. It's not data that we crawl somewhere and ask about this company when we do a credit scoring on a company, we don't go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT about it. So that's what I think it's super important, that you also check what kind of data you use as a company, and you make sure that you use the right data that don't have these kind of prejudice. So I'm pretty happy, and I can really say for us, I think we are not biased.
Sarah, do you wanna?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I can see why, as Fatima mentioned, why some
Can you maybe hand over? It's maybe not on.
No, it's gonna apply.
Okay, I think it's no.
I see Fatima's point of view, because I think when I think about AI models, I think they replicate what the historical data was. And I think we need to ask ourselves also, when you make a decision, Miriam, like what is the data set, and if you have tested on different demographics, and if it will give you different chances, because the idea. Okay, so it's yeah. So yeah, I
So yeah, back to that point, I think definitely I see the reality is there might be a bias, because at the end of the day we do live in a biased world, and it's still not on.
I think no, it's working.
Yeah,
no, it's working.
Is it?
It's working.
I hear another one.
When I see is, I think AI is not like, I mean, it's built by humans, so it's not perfect. We cannot remove the human from the decision making. And the reality is we do live in a world that there's inequalities. So I think the question becomes, how do we use the model in an inclusive and fair way? And how do we always also challenge the decisions? Like, are these decisions finals because based on facts, or can we actually look into it and also be transparent also on how the decisions were made?
So I think what we really have to think about if we take data like a bank statement, you maybe would say that's not biased, but if you maybe think about it, if it's really biased, so maybe not for us, we are sitting on the stage, but maybe for other females where they want to make a loan for a couple, the male is doing it, and the next step, the female. So is this then already a bias if the man is doing more the finance stuff in this situation? So is it really then biased, or how far should we think about these kind of data? How sensitive should we go there to really make it unbiased?
I mean, you can only give a loan to one bank account. I mean, yes, if two people have access on a bank account, something different. But okay, we do business loans, so it's
no. I mean, they have their own account that in the past always the man did it. It's a positive sign for Schupa or whatever, and the female did never, or had also not the. I don't know what is relevant for.
Maybe yeah.
Also this financial information you need to decide if she's getting a loan or not. So
I mean, we also take a look at Schufa or Krefo, but we don't take it so much into consideration maybe as a normal bank. For us, it's just that we look for very hard facts. That's the one that it's interesting for us. The other ones, it's really we are looking on the performance. I mean, it's in a company. I don't see any. If this is a female, I don't even know if it's a company from a woman or a man. I have no idea. So I think we are not biased, and therefore I think that with the means of technology, we can have a more democratic decision. And I think we also give access to finance to also groups of people that maybe would not get any, because they're too young, they're not long enough in business. And it's just that it's pure facts. When the company is performing good and they have a good stage of health, then we give them a loan, and we don't care about gender. We don't care about all these things. It's just the pure numbers, and there I think it's not biased. That's my understanding of it, because we don't crawl any ChatGPTs or so. We don't check this. So it's really, we get the information on pure, bank account. We look in the bank account. We build our own logic on the bank account and just see what is happening. If there are strange things happening on the bank account, I mean, if there is no balance between cash in and cash out, they don't get a loan. And I don't care if it's a woman or a man.
Would you agree to, or do you have another opinion about this? So,
I mean, maybe to the point that we agree on is, I think that we need women to receive much more financial support, especially because, and I think I've mentioned this already, for Europe in 2023, only 2% of VC money went to female-founded companies. 2%, meaning that, turning the numbers around, 98% of VC money in Europe, I'm not talking about Germany, went to men or to companies that were only founded by men. It wasn't even mixed, right? What does it mean? It means, first of all, women need more access to funds, because funds are not only money. Wealth is not only money. Wealth is network. Wealth is understanding how economy works, how business works, connecting with people, also building generational wealth, meaning that as soon as we democratize this and give women more access to wealth, meaning funds or like hard euros or dollars in this case, we actually also open up other doors that women have systematically been cut out from, right? If you think about a lot of the parts of our economy, women are very strategically not included. And especially when we talk, and I mean, this also our government has been about, startups, and let's be super innovative. And then they invited, I think 55 men and 2 women with Friedrich Merz in the Kanzleramt, where you're like, okay, so we want to be innovative and forward and so on and so forth. And on the other hand, we only give women 2% of the risk capital from VC. So there is a contradiction that we're looking at. And I agree with Miriam that we very quickly need to make sure that women also can access funds. And digitization might be one of the best ways to do it.
Okay. So what is your view on female founders? Because you see a lot founders coming to US banks.
Yeah, I think the reality is, as mentioned by Fatima, women in the fintech sector are very rare. Like, if I'm just thinking about our current portfolio, we only have 2 fintechs with 2 female founders. And if I think about all the cases that I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, there are less than 5 cases. So it's a really rare occasion where we get like a pitch deck from a fintech. With a woman that is a leader. So, and that makes me question whether the problem is the funding itself. The problem is that there are not enough women interested in being an entrepreneur. It's kind of what comes to my mind, because I'm thinking, okay, even if we turn down an opportunity and we don't think that a woman have enough funding from VCs to support a debt facility from our bank, then I'm not even seeing the women coming to us. So that also make me a question, like, okay, yes, they have problem getting access to the VC rooms, pitching their ideas, and they're not maybe comfortable enough to reach out to a bank and to say, hey, I have this great idea. Can you come in? So I see the reality. The reality is we still have a problem. We don't have enough women in the fintech. We don't have also enough funding opportunities to them. And how can we change that? I think that's a question I think we all want to address here.
Yeah, I mean, I also think that actually the biggest problem is that we don't have enough founders in general in Germany. I mean, Germany is on the, I think, second last place in the global founders monitor, so in the industry nation. So Germany has, let's say, from its history, not this mentality of people saying, okay, I have now, I do my Abitur, and then I go to the university, then I have maybe 2 years that I learn somewhere, and then I go have my own company. who does that? And that is really that is the mentality. It's more like the safety belt. You go into something, you go into big companies, corporates, but it might change in the next years because a lot of corporates are not that safe anymore, and we need more innovation. This is also, there are many problems that come to each other. So it starts with the children, it starts with, let's say, the girls, the boys, the missing opportunities for good childcare. Still in our, let's say, in a very German way, it's really, you don't see a lot of women that have kids that really work full time, especially when they're young. Mm-hmm. It is really still in I would say that probably 90% of the German women, when they get kids, they lose their career. That is really a hard thing. This is my guessing. Yeah. And this is really what I see. And this is really probably for me the biggest killer of everything is having kids. And it's really hard to say that, but I think we really have to think about this. And especially those, when we have daughters, what can we do that, they understand this, that there's also something in between. It's not only career or kids. It could be both, but this is still not really in the German mentality. You have this in the Scandinavian countries where it's normal. In France, you have it in more and more countries, but it's still here. My daughter's now she's studying already. She's big now, but I never stopped working. And at that time when she was small, everybody was asking me, "How can you do that? That poor child." This child is not poor. It has developed quite well and is. And we have a good relationship. And this is really what I'm saying. I think the biggest problem is our society, where it starts like this. So that women get out, then we don't have a lot of female founders. Then we also don't have a lot of females in C-level positions where you have this decision. And then when there's only these few female founders coming into the race of VC money, you often have a lot, and that happens, in the VC area. It's often that, especially a lot of, let's say, deal teams, they go for things that, look very promising and making a lot of money very fast. And also, you have to admit, a lot of, let's say, startups that are founded by women are often startups that are maybe going more into a social, corner, or maybe not this hard, I don't know, not so. It's a different way, and it's also a different way of presenting. Also, sometimes in pitches. So I've seen many pitches also compare female with male. The male are much more dominant. They say, "I can do that. This is going to be unicorn. This is going to be great." So I think we have to learn a lot. Especially we have that's really, and I think this is something that the education needs to do. We have to rethink our education on how actually this is going to, let's say, happen in the future, because I think really this has to change, and otherwise we won't have any founders. And what is going on in Germany? So we have this, the economy is not doing well, there's not a lot of innovation, so we need to change.
Yes, this is I can support this view to the situation. When I was working as a consultant, I always saw females stay within the consulting until they get the manager, then they get 30, and then they quit in a safe job in a company somewhere because they want to get children. And from my perspective, sometimes I think it's also, if they really ask or discuss with their husband what or how will they going to manage the life when they have a family. So I don't think it's just a female topic, it's not just a male topic. So they have to agree how they both can follow their careers and share the childhood work. And I think and I support that is one perspective where we maybe through education, through what we are telling our girls at least, or maybe also our boys, how their view to what will the future culture and society should look like, right? What do you think this would help then for the future to get this bias, or to get also more founders, female founders?
Before I answer this question, I want to ask the room, who thinks that he or she is biased?
I have some time.
Because some people think that they're actually unbiased, interested, or I need to talk to you later because no one is unbiased. Breaking news. Because you can imagine that when we were still living in caves, when something or someone would approach our cave and we wouldn't know what this is, we had to immediately decide: is this a danger? Is it fine? Can I stay in my cave? Do I need to run? Right, fight or flight. And we don't live in caves anymore. We live in like these beautiful buildings here, and we're secure in these office spaces. But this little caveman woman is still in our heads because we very immediately, within a split second, decide, is something a danger or is it fine? Meaning that we are all biased. You're all biased. If you think that you're not biased, we should talk. Because it is really important that we understand that biases are nothing bad per se, right? Everyone is biased. It's very human to be biased. It's really important to reflect these biases. For example, I work at Trade Republic. I work at LIQID now. I work in the automotive industry, very male-dominated everything. Most of our customers are men in the financial industry. An ETF doesn't care whether a man or woman is buying the ETF. A bond doesn't care. A stock doesn't. No one cares, right? The ETF is just sitting there and waiting to be bought. But still, over 90% of customers are men. Why? Because we have the bias that a lot of girls have is maths and finance, and it's so dangerous to be invested in the capital markets. And then you see this Lehman Brothers people coming out with their boxes, right? Everyone saw it on RTL when it happened. So we are very biased, and especially girls and women are very, very biased when it comes to financial independence, right? This is why usually the example that you made is when you talk to women, they say, yeah, my husband does it or my boyfriend does it, because we've been taught as girls. And this is a bias that we carry within ourselves and which we reproduce, because I love the example of the pitches. I don't think that women just do worse pitches than men. I just think they didn't have the network, they didn't have the role models, they didn't have the opportunity to do it. In comparison, every finance bro has like a million other finance bros he can ask, what did you do in your pitch? No, right? It is, it's just reality. And so it's much easier to be a finance bro and go to a VC, which also exists of like, white men sitting together. And most importantly, and I want, if you take one thing from what I say on this panel today is please whenever you sit in a room where you're making decisions, take a look around and say who is not here. Don't check who is here, because the ones that are here are already at the table and have access to the room. But look around and say who is not here. And in most cases, you will find that so many people are not here that actually should have a say in this, could change the entire view on whatever you're deciding. And you could actually be an access maker, right? You could open the door for someone to get in and change these biases. And then the next time a VC is sitting there and there's a woman who is also deciding, she maybe says, hey, this social startup, because we don't need the 500th, insurance tech. Maybe the social startup is something that is worth investing in. And then this is how change is made. It's not made from today until tomorrow. It is made with small steps.
So it's clear that we don't want to make a bash between male and female. So we just want to increase the sensibility to the other perspectives. And that every one of us maybe should think about, maybe different perspectives. At least you can't have all perspectives included that try to widen your view. Maybe to get also another topic into this discussion, maybe regulation. Do you think that there is already regulation maybe which reduces the biases, or should there also be more regulations coming from the state that's supporting this change?
It's a difficult question. Because the Germans like to regulate a lot, but we have to be really careful that we have the right balance between innovation and regulation, that we don't regulate too much because we want to make everything perfect, and then we lose it again. So this is not. I think this is. it's difficult to have a really an opinion on this. So I think we need more innovation. Therefore, I think we need less regulation in some parts, but we need a smarter regulation and maybe have also more, different people making regulations. Maybe not people that have all the same, let's say, the same background. Yeah. That's also a problem. That we need to mix sometimes, let's say, teams more, that you have other perspectives on things.
I would actually agree. I don't think we need more regulation. I think regulation is also too slow for the developments that we are seeing in our society. I think the more important point is not to wait for the state or the government to do something. Just ask yourself every day, what can I do today, now in this meeting, to ensure that another voice is heard, that another chair is brought to the table, that another perspective is being, included. Because, and also, this is also a very interesting thing that I see is people on the one hand always say, oh, it's too much regulation and the government is involving itself in everything. And on the other hand, we just sit and wait. And we're like, okay, when is, the government going to do something about this? Why? I mean, this is something that we can do as a society. And therefore, I agree, we don't need more regulation from our point of view. We just need more responsibility with every single one of us to ask ourselves, what are we doing on a daily basis to make this better?
Okay. Do you have an idea what you could do on a daily basis to?
I think when I think about it, because we have seen some of our fintech the clients, they use AI and they demonstrate to us how they also are data-driven. I think the only different perspective from you, Miriam, they were more on the consumer lending side. So they do emphasize a lot on the underbanked group of people that are normally excluded. And I think they take more, they don't exclude gender or because they also show us the statistics when it comes to, okay, this is the portfolio, this is how much are female, so they are kind of aware of that. And I think from our investor perspective, we never really questions their AI models. They demonstrate and we're like, oh, this is great, because then you are able to have a better risk assessment, and then the credit scoring is better than the normal credit bureau. But I think from an investor point of view, maybe we should kind of ask more questions about that, like how do we ensure that actually what you are using, and you're not only relying on these data and just to say, hey, I'm gonna include this and I'm gonna exclude this. And I think we haven't asked, let's say, enough questions from an investor point of view. We're always impressed, maybe because we also don't have the expertise about the technology and innovation. And when we see, for example, they're moving from traditional underwriting to completely driven and having decision within 2 minutes, sometimes we need to ask questions. How can you have a decision in 2 minutes? That's kind of a bit of a concern. And I think that's what we can do from an investor point of view, is just to make sure that these AI models are not just delivering the results that we will also want to see, but also they're considering, doing the testing, they're questioning, and there's a lot of people involved in developing these AIs, and because then they can bring different perspectives and they can see different things from different point of view. And if there is biased data, then we can try to think about, okay, how do we eliminate these bias, and what kind of different data that we can use or diversify. I think that's how I look at it.
Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe let's come back to what you also said, the networking topic. So you think if there is a network that a female can go to be empowered in what they maybe just have some idea in her mind that she can start as a founder, do you really think this would help, or is it just more like we need more role models, or is it a combination of everything? So how can every one of us then there really contribute to go into this direction, or what should all females maybe here also do from tomorrow on to make something?
So I think the first and most important thing is visibility. If I ask the group now, who are your top 3 amazing founders that you can think of? We're going to talk about Bill Gates, we're going to talk about Jeff Bezos, and we're going to talk about, Elon Musk, problematic person. But, everyone will maybe think of him. If I now ask you about your top 3 female founders, like amazing female founders, I don't know. Can anyone say anything? Ine?
And things. I don't know her name, but
Exactly.
it's been through
That's exactly the point. And thank you so much for that, because we remember something, but we don't have the visibility of the name. We don't have the visibility of actually a person that we are talking about. But the point is, in general, that we need more visibility of female founders, right? We need more women to be on stages, talk about what they're doing. I'm not a fan of like these female networks thingies, because also a network doesn't mind whether it's a man or female on the stage. We need more visibility. We need more women talking about failing as well, because also men don't talk about failing as much. And in the US, we have fail fast and fail often, right? Which they really love. And I think it's really important because it drives innovation. And we try to highlight our highlights. And when we fail, we're like, okay, I'm not going to post this on LinkedIn. So no one knows that I failed, even though I think it can help a lot of women. So the first thing is visibility. Some do, exactly. And when they do, it's like, oh my God, thank you so much, because I did the same thing 2 years ago, but I was too afraid to talk about it, right?
Yes.
We need visibility, we need role models, we need people in rooms asking themselves who is in the room, who is not in the room. And especially we need women who actually believe that they can contribute to our society. And I think there's a huge lack of this, because we often have not seen, this amazing, Angela Merkel, our Mutti, for almost 20 years. Being this mother figure, more or less. But other than that, I think we need more women that we can actually look up to and aspire to be similar to them.
So Miriam does even have more at the stages than lawyers. But it's only.
And I think also network is super important. And also, I think it's great to have FinTech ladies in this, that you get to know each other, that you know others. But it's also super important to build a network in your industry. Because to be honest, I had a network of FinTech bros when I started actually RatePay. I was in the payment space for many years, and I was working in the startup when I was quite young, and I had these role models because they were the founders of the startup I worked at, and I learned a lot from them. And these are really, but they were really nice bros. And they always, my boss, he was a great mentor. He was my mentor. He was my role model, and I wanted to become like him. I was really sort of, okay, if you can do it, I can do it too. And I think a role model also has to be something. Maybe something, not like an Elon Musk or something that is so far away that you could never reach. It's not about becoming the super billionaires. It's more about role models that, that are realistic in a way. That is super important. This is also what the press has to show. Not only the super, super, super shiny, super important, whatever people, super rich people, because this is probably for most of the people never reachable. But I think as realistic as possible. Yeah? And then you have to, and when you have good network, you can ask people. So I ask always, my colleagues, ex-colleagues, like, can you make me an intro? What do you think? So it's really also a lot of, let's say, sharing ideas, bearing thoughts. And so, because when I was young, I didn't know how to do that. And at that time, there were not so many. And I think today you also have a lot of these accelerator programs and things where you can also learn how to do pitches, how to do startups, and so on. So, but network is very, very essential.
Okay.
Super essential.
So, and maybe to summarize this panel, so go out and go networking with males and with females within your industry and across the industry. So I think speaking to a lot of people and searching for role models you maybe want to follow is essential. Then also to widen your perspective from a female side as well as from a male side. Always think on the other side. You maybe your opinion is not going this direction, and this I think was the main points we want to take with you from this panel today. Do you want to add something? Which is
again important. Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I'm also not so much about, when I see female fintech conference, I feel a bit sad. I'm like, why do we have to have our own conference and it's called female? So I definitely think that networking is not only limited to women, but I think it definitely helps to see role models and mentors, especially not just within the fintech. I mean, I'm the only woman in my team. I always complain to my boss whenever we have a job opening, can you hire a woman? And it's just... So I think it's representation definitely helps, because I see also how it impacts other women in the bank, where they see, okay, we see that you're doing great, you're developing, Sara, and this is inspiring for us. So it makes me happy to hear that other women also have this confidence that, okay, not Elon Musk, but they can reach up to become something else. And I don't aspire to ever. But I think representation, and not just about women, and also representation from different minority groups, this also helps, because then they can bring different perspective, and then you have an enriching, feedback and yeah. And I think, women need to stop being afraid and go out. And I think we need to kind of break this barrier and this fear, because sometimes it comes within. And but I think when you talk to different women and you see their experiences, then you have your own reflections and think, okay, maybe she did it, I can also do it as well.
Do good thing and talk about it. Maybe yes. Last sentence. So then I think thank you very much for discussing this very important and interesting topic, and thank you very much for listening. And